Hi everyone, and welcome to this session, Getting Inspired by Technology, from the rainy Netherlands. My name is Tijmen Mulder, and here's some info about myself. I am one of the co-owners of Robot Kittens, and we're a partner in creative technology. This means that we mostly do the production for campaign work, but we work together with the client to make their concept better. And that's what this session is about, how to work together with concept and production to make the best possible digital product. And here's our show reel.
Hi everyone.
So, let's talk about digital campaigns. Because of which parts do digital campaigns mostly consist? Well, it's of course visuals, technology, and concept. Concept is always the most important. But what's the order in which we do these phases? Well, step one is often the concept, because as I said, it's the most important. Step two are the visuals, make it look great. And step three is technology. Okay, because we only have to do the execution, right? Wrong. The conditions of which part are the most dynamic? Is the way we approach concept different from project to project? It shouldn't be. We know how to concept, right? We know how to think about great ideas. So that's mostly the same. Is the way we approach visuals different from project to project? Well, no, yeah, sometimes it's 2D, sometimes it's 3D illustration or video production. But the process, the way we approach this phase is always the same. Does the way we approach tech different? No, because it just has to be made. But is that smart? Because technology is so dynamic, is so fluid. From project to project, all properties of technology can change. For instance, if you're used to doing Facebook campaigns in which you had to invite people, and Facebook removed this feature because of privacy, and you weren't aware of this, and you sold this to a client, you have a problem. This is why it's important to be aware of technology in your project. The impact of not doing this can be huge. and mostly negatively. So, move it up. Your first step should be concept, because it's the most important. After that, you will go into a tech validation and concept optimization, because knowing what possibilities there are currently in technology will make your project better. If tech is a big part of your project, of course. And tech validation is just make sure that what you thought of can be done. Don't sell it before you know that for sure. Step 3 will be visuals. Make that great video, make those great illustrations. And the last step is your tech execution. Just create it because you know it's possible. You've done your research, you've validated your concept, and this will make your project better. Make innovation part of your concept flow. So let's have some examples. What's currently moving fast in technology? Well, let's start with virtual reality. I'm a big fan of virtual reality. I've loved it since I've tried it the first time in the 90s. And well, we've made huge jumps and leaps the last couple of years because we have Oculus and we have Vive, and they make really immersive VR goggles. But they're still not for consumers because you need a huge and fast PC, there are cables and stuff, and it's not really usable in advertising. But now we have some options. We have the Oculus Quest and the Vive Focus that are really good VR goggles, and they're self-contained, so you don't need a PC for them. You can just put them on your head and it works, which gives us in the creative advertising agency world a lot of possibilities to use this for really immersive experiences for our users. Maybe not yet at home, but we can use it on fairs or other types of events, and it's really usable now. So you can use these self-contained glasses to have huge experiences with a lot of people, and it doesn't have to cost a lot. Also, the technology in these glasses gets really crazy because now, for example, the Oculus Quest has implemented hand tracking, which means that you can just put the glasses on and use your hands in virtual reality instead of clunky controllers. My grandma could even use this now. And there is a great Russian company called Anti-Latency that has created inside-out motion tracking, positional tracking, which just means you can track everything. You can do full body tracking. You can track legs and arms and hands and heads. And this makes it so immersive. You just think about all the types of experiences you can make with this. So that's virtual reality. The next area in which there is a lot of innovation is augmented reality. Because augmented reality has been around for a really long time. But it exploded when phones got fast enough. And Apple and Google and Facebook and Snapchat, they all jumped on this augmented reality bandwagon to create some platforms that we can all use to create really exciting experiences. And we've all seen them the last couple of years, and they're great. But they're still gimmicky, but that can change. And of course, we've seen the games like Pokemon Go. It's a huge technology that has a huge future in front of it. And now there are small innovations in augmented reality that make it a lot more exciting and a lot more useful in our campaigning. The first one is occlusion, which just means that we can put virtual objects behind actual objects, which makes it so much more immersive. And the same technology can be used for collision, which just means that we can put virtual objects on actual objects or hit actual objects, So it knows about the terrain and it knows about the objects that are there. So we can lie stuff on top of that and use it in our virtual experiences. And one of the biggest is that, well, we used to have to make apps for a good augmented reality experience. But now Apple and Google both support the technology in their web browser that companies can make use of to make augmented reality platforms that work on the web. So just in your mobile browser. One of these companies that have made a great augmented reality platform for the web is Eighth Wall. You should really look at their stuff. And this change in the augmented reality landscape, the switch from apps to the possibility of using it on web, is huge. This can make the use of augmented reality in your campaigns so extremely accessible. It's really exciting. The next area are the mixed reality glasses, which didn't take off yet, but they will. So it all started with the Google Glass, which never went further than the beta or the test stage. I don't know if you've tried it, but it was a fun experience. You had a small screen in the corner of your eye, and it worked pretty nice. It was a little slow, and the battery didn't last that long, but it was a good step in the right direction. One of the problems was that it launched long before Google had their augmented reality platform, so the timing just wasn't right, and you kind of looked like an idiot. So the next steps in these mixed reality glasses are the HoloLens and the Magic Leap, which are really impressive devices, but they're mostly for pro users. You will never have one at home, and well, it also kind of failed. The Magic Leap just fired a lot of people who worked there. There's not really a market for these very expensive mixed reality glasses. But we're making some steps and some progress. You have companies like Vuzix that make the Vuzix Blade, which kind of look like actual glasses. And they're really nice. They're a step in the right direction. And then you have North that make the North focals. They really look like normal glasses. They're even kind of beautiful. And they use a projection method that projects a laser in your eye via the glass of your glasses. And it looks really crisp and it's really nice. The problem with these glasses of North are that they didn't have an open ecosystem. So they had 3 or 4 apps on there and that was it. But recently they announced the new versions of their glasses that would have features like this. But I don't know if the North Focals version 2 will come to the market because last week Google bought them. So they have big plans. And they should have big plans. Because what we do know is that the Apple Glass will launch somewhere next year. And the Apple glasses will be a game changer. We know very little about it, but Apple has made huge steps in augmented reality and making something that people want to use. So if you can get prescription glasses with augmented reality features made by Apple, we have a big chance that it will be a success, or it will be the first step for other companies to jump on this bandwagon and create these augmented reality glasses that will change how we use augmented reality in our daily lives. It sounds kind of crazy, but I think the way we use technology in our life will change because of these augmented reality glasses. And we will all have them in a few years, starting with the Apple glasses that will come next year. And we're making big steps in holographics. Well, not like Tupac, but holographic displays, which are just displays, monitors, but they have 3D objects in them. It really looks like a plastic block with a 3D object embedded in it. If it's a shoe, or in this case like a gun, it will look like the actual object is in there. And you don't need any glasses, it's just a monitor. Maybe this will change the stores as we know them, since they don't have to have the actual product to show you what it looks like in 3 dimensions. It's really impressive to look at it in person. And then we have these advances in neural networks, deep learning, and machine learning. And I know this always sounds pretty complicated, and it kind of is, but I think I can explain it pretty easily. Okay, so what you see here is a neural network. It's not making it better, right? It seems really complicated. But how I can explain, the lines in front are what we put into it. We say, okay, this is your input. And the lines at the end are the output, and we know what we want there. And everything in between is what the computer makes up. It creates a model of the data we put in and applies that to the output. Let's use it in a practical way. Okay, the input. Let's feed it tens of thousands of images of cats. I know it's hard, but the internet has a lot of these images, so it's doable. Now, the neural network creates a model of all the information it gets of what the properties of a cat are. So then it has a model, it creates a model of a cat. It knows all the properties and it can recognize cats. But with this information, it can not only recognize cats, it can also generate random cats. So all these images are images of cats that don't exist. This is all based on the data it gathered about what a cat can look like. So this is kind of magical, and there's no human in between this to do something about it. It's the computer fully doing this. And you can apply this to cars. These are all images of cars that don't exist. You can even do that with humans. These are humans that don't exist. They're randomly generated based on information about humans. And this is how we apply it to images. But we can also apply it to generate random stories, analyze data in a way we cannot do, upscaling video and images to higher quality, create natural sounding voice synthesis, autonomous vehicles, like your car that can drive itself. It all uses neural networks and machine learning. We can make smart bots that react as humans do. And we can add color to black and white video and images. And these are just some of the things you can apply it to that I just thought up of. But it's, the possibilities are endless. You have Fake App, for example. Fake App is a really good demonstration of machine learning because it uses, well, the same method I just explained, but it does it with two faces. So you let them learn this person and you let them learn this person, and it creates two models of these people. And what you can do with this is say, okay, replace this person with this person in this video. And the results are pretty scary, but also pretty exciting. Well, it's fact that we cannot trust video anymore ever again, but this gives us so much possibilities in the future. So it's something to get really excited about using your campaigns, but it's also a little scary. So let's optimize some fictional projects with new tech. Yeah, these are pretty bad fictional briefs and concepts, so sorry for that. The first brief is a company that says, sell our TV. It's better. Okay, then the main concept is a website where you can make a picture of your TV to win a new one. Easy and pretty boring. Okay, so let's add tech to that. Let's first add WebRTC to the website. So that means that we can send the image that we're recording via the camera to the server to do stuff with it. Okay, then add deep and machine learning and WebGL to it to recognize the television and replace it with a better one real time. And then do that in WebGL so it looks nice and crisp. Okay, let's do some server-side video processing and deep learning to get the image from the TV and put it back on the TV. So the thing that's playing on your TV will play instantly on your virtual TV. So in the end, it's a website where you can film your TV and see it being replaced with a better TV with a better image. And this makes the concept fully tech loaded and maximized. So the next fictional brief. It's okay, let's promote a new horror movie about a detective. Okay, our concept. Send us a reason why your town is the most scary and win tickets to the premiere. Let's add tech to that. Okay, let's first add instant messaging. So it's a dialogue with a character from the movie. Let's add a dynamically generated voice of the main character to that. So you can have voice messages of the character of the movie that calls you by your name and stuff like that to make it really personal. Let's add gamification and geolocation. Okay, so the character will ask you questions to take pictures of stuff in your neighborhood, and it can recognize where that is and if it's correct. So let's make it really local. And the next step, let's add artificial intelligence based storytelling and image recognition. So when you make a picture of something in your neighborhood, it can recognize that it's there. And let's change the story based on all this information we have. And then finally, let's add image generation. So we will take the pictures that you've made of your thing in your neighborhood and add it to images that this fictional character is sending you. So that's all personal now. It's local, it's personal, and it's gamification. So the final concept is a dynamic, personalized instant messaging game with a dynamic storyline enriched with all types of media. Tech maximized. So the next fictional brief is promote a healthy cooking oil. Okay, the concept is an app with a digital recipe book. Let's add some text to that. Okay, let's first add image recognition. So you can film your fridge and it can make recipes based on that. Add some profiling. Let's make recipes based on the stuff you've searched for before. Add machine learning. If you like this dish, you will like this dish, and do it really smartly, like based on taste and stuff like that. So at the end, we have a dynamic recipe app that will suggest recipes based on your taste and what you have in your fridge, so what you can make. Tech maximized. The next brief is promote a new football sneaker. Okay, our concept is an installation at an event where you need to shoot soccer balls at a cardboard Messi. Pretty bad. Let's add some tech. Okay, so instead of cardboard stuff, let's add virtual reality and a huge space. Next step, add full body tracking. So we can track your feet kicking a ball. So you can do that in virtual reality. Add multiplayer. Have multiple people in your team and do it together in virtual reality. And add volumetric video of Messi. Volumetric video means 3D video. So it feels like Messi is actually there. So the final concept is a photorealistic multiplayer football game against Messi. Tech maximized. Okay, so let's go into a case of ours. That's a good example of how working together with your technical partner can create a better product. We did this together with Achtung, which is an advertising agency in the Netherlands. And the project we did was called Snelwegsprookjes, which is a hard Dutch word, and it means highway tales. So this is the case video.
Once upon a time, car rides used to look like this. But nowadays, they look more like this. So how can Volkswagen help bring imagination back to the backseat? By making children curious to look outside again. That's why we created Snelwegsprookjes, location-based audiobooks that bring the highway to life.
Welkom bij Snelwegsprookjes. Zie je dat ding daar? Met die draaiende wieken. Daar, dat lijkt wel een startbaan. Laten we tot 10 tellen. 3, 2, 1, go!
We scanned the entire Dutch highway system to identify thousands of lakes, all kinds of tunnels, windmills, and other landmarks along the road. We turned these ordinary objects into magical characters in our stories.
We used an advanced computer visioning system to detect all the objects by camera. It could detect what was next to the highway and what was visible.
Kids just need to listen.
Dit is een hert. Gewoon een hert. Kijk. Ai.
And let their imagination transform their surroundings. We worked in close collaboration with some of the best children's book writers in the Netherlands, who wrote hundreds of modular chapters, all triggered by objects along the road. Since each journey is different, every story is different as well, creating a unique tale for every possible trip.
Daar heb je die stomme meeuw weer.
Ik zie de meeuw! Daar, zie je dat?
Because no matter where you're going, imagination makes a better ride for everyone.
So what is it? Well, it's an app for iPhone and Android, which has multiple children's stories, and they all change based on your geolocation and the objects next to the highway where you're currently driving. So, since nobody has done a project like this, we had a lot of challenges to overcome. And we could only do this working together with content and technology. So what were these challenges? Well, the first thing we needed to do was create a prototype really early that was like a basic navigation app that could see where you were driving on the highway and do actions based on that. We had about a week to create this before we could do anything else. So then there are 3 challenges. The first one, where do we get the data? The second one, how do we create a modular story? And the third one, how can we test this? So the first challenge was, where do we get the data? Because we needed the data about every object next to the Dutch highway. So, source 1, let's check Google Maps. Can we use an API or something to get the data from there? Well, the result was not really. We could get some information, but we also needed information about where exactly the highways were and which highway. And Google does not disclose this information. So that wasn't the option that could fix all our problems. The second one was OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap is like Google Maps, is an application that gives you maps. But it has an additional feature, and it's called the Overpass API. And it gives you the possibility to query all the data they have. So we could just say, okay, give us all the highways of the Netherlands. And this was essential information we needed to have. So this was really useful. But it's been maintained by the community. So the data wasn't fully complete. So we needed other data sources to combine to our full data set. The next one was public services on the map. It's a Dutch service, and it gives you all the information about all the buildings in the Netherlands. So we could use that for big and high buildings. It was really useful. The next one was Wikipedia. A lot of Wikipedia has geolocations embedded in the articles. So we created a scraper that got all this information about objects next to the highway. And the last one we used was computer vision. We just drove all the highways in the Netherlands. I know this is not really an option in other countries, but the Netherlands is really small. So we just drove and indexed what objects were next to the highway. This was really useful. So then we had a database with all the objects next to the highway. These were a lot. So now we needed to group them. So what type of objects can we group together and can we make categories of? So we came to have about 20,000 objects, which were windmills, water towers, wind turbines, chimneys, communication towers, masts, towers, ad poles, electricity masts, roads over water, petrol stations, rest areas, art, farms, overpasses, high buildings, farm fields, lakes, forests, and tunnels. Yeah, so we found out there's not a lot of exciting stuff next to the highway. Maybe that's news to you, but yeah, it was kind of hard to find exciting stuff which we could use, but these objects we could. So the next challenge: how do we create a modular story? How can we brief the writers if we don't know how this works ourselves? So the art and copy team at the Achtung agency, they wrote the first story because we needed to do it iterative. We needed to do the tag, they needed to write a part of the story, and we needed to test it. And this was the only way to do this, because they were creative and thought about ways the story could change. And we had to implement it and test it before we knew if it was a viable option. So we were going to create a structure for all the stories. And we were thinking way too technical. We were thinking, okay, because we have all this information, we could say, look in 100 meters to your right, there's this type of object. That doesn't make the story better, we found out. And also we had all these branching storylines. For example, we had one story that you had to find all these objects and it would change the storyline, and it was really complex. And it also didn't make the story better. It just made our work like 100 times more. So we found out. So we shouldn't get too technical. We should just tell a good story. Branching storylines are not needed. They do not make the story better. The collecting game is also not something we should use. And we had dynamic endings based on the story parts that you had. Just make one good ending for all the stories. So we came to the same beginning for per story. So the story has the same beginning, the same ending, and you have all these modules in between that change based on the objects that are next to you. So they are optional. Because we couldn't guarantee that you drove next to an object, we had fillers that were like generic, that will talk about clouds or the road, things we were sure of that you had in your vicinity. That worked really nicely because we could guarantee that you had stories that followed up on each other in a short time. There wasn't a lot of silence. We had logics for leaving the highway. For example, if you were at 90% of a story and your parents left the highway, your story should just finish and shouldn't say, oh, you left the highway, so see you next time. So it's stuff like that. So it shouldn't be frustrating. We also had logic for traffic jams, because we could give people fillers that were in traffic jams, but if you had all the fillers, the story wouldn't be much fun, so we broke it off after a while. We had some logic if you were getting gas, and all stuff like this. Really small things we had to think about to make it a nice experience. So we had all these the structure. We had the structure now, and we had the data to work with. So yeah, we were really far, and now the next step was test. So we would just drive all the highways and see if all the data matched and if it was fun. Of course, this is not a scalable solution. So we also needed to think about another option. The first thing we did was we created a test version really early with really basic software just to test if the audio works. But this is not something that's scalable. So we also created a simulator that would just use the data we had about the highways and use it virtually. So it would drive thousands of routes randomly and would say, okay, I had this part of the story, I had this part of the story. So we had a representation of the data of all the stories that worked on which highway. So we had a sheet, and it was generated, and it said when you went from this road to this road, you had so many story parts, so many fillers. So we could say, okay, this road is really effective. This road is not yet effective, so we could optimize all the story parts so it would work on all the roads and in all the situations. And it worked. It was really fun. So after that, we briefed all the writers to how to exactly write a story for this app. They did it wonderful. They created some really imaginative stories, and we have 4 of them in the app. And the last step was recording and create the music, because we had to record the stories with voice actors. But also a big part was dynamic score, background music that changed on the story parts you had, and that made it complete and was a lot of fun. And that was Snelwegsprookjes. And that's the end of the session. Thank you so much for all your attention. And if you have any questions, because I know it's been a lot of information, the Q&A starts now.